Okay, so yeah, if you go into the holiday planner application, this will be what you get presented with. As a regular user, you just need to request your absence or leave. Then you'll be able to select dates, holiday type, day type depending on if it's a full day, half day, AM or PM. And then depending on the day type, you can set whether you would like users to have a comment or not. So some comments can be mandatory or just be blank, and you can have a comment or not. Once a user submits that, as a manager, you'll get a notification. Notifications will just come up into your in-system messages or your emails, depending on how you have it configured, and it'll say you've had a new holiday request type. Then, as manager, you'll see it here. You'll be able to see the user, the holiday type, etc., and view the details. So once you view the details, you can either approve, decline it, and edit it as well. The generic things that an end user will be able to see is My Holiday, which will show them all the holiday they have booked, the request history, and also they'll be able to see anyone on their team. So this will show you everyone in your team's holiday. And the teams are depending on how you as an admin will set them, so we'll go through that when we go through the admin side. The other things that the manager will have is again, what you see on the home page. We'll just be able to see it here, but you'll also be able to create absences and leave on behalf of other users. So as a manager, you can select who you want to create the holiday on behalf of. For example, like a sickness day, so you can say Abigail is off sick today, and we'll put that in. And because you're creating it as a manager, it automatically gets approved, and it will go in their holiday planner, so you'll see that Abigail's off sick today. Again, the other thing is a manager diagram. So for all the teams that you manage, you'll be able to go into the manager diagram area, click on them, and all your users will be available here. This is quite useful because you can obviously see who's off at the same time, or any clashes that you have. And that's generally what a manager can see. The other thing that's also available from the front end is the reports section. So holiday planner reports is something that we've created for maybe like an HR department or something like that, where they wanted to see all the reports, but they weren't a manager or a substitute manager. So depending on obviously which report type you'd like to see, you can just click on that. Any groups that you've been given reports access to, you'll be able to see here, and then you can select which holidays you would like to see the reports for and the date range. Once you've selected that, you click on view, and then it will show you who's taken what days off or what sickness days, etc. And then that's possible to download as a CSV. The other types of reports, as you can see, are here. Just depending on how you want to access that information, that's where to go. Has anyone got any queries on reports? No, obviously, if you do, just pop them down, and I'll go through them as and when. So that's the front end. It's hopefully reasonably self-explanatory. Obviously, as questions come up, just let me know. But I'll jump now to the admin side of Holiday Planner. So we go to Admin and Holidays. This is what the admin side looks like. First of all, you get the day types, which is the tab that we've got here. This is where you can create different day types depending on your requirements. The standard generic ones are these top 4, and the rest of them can be edited. So by clicking on any of the day types, you can go in, you can change the character, which is what it will appear on in the calendar view. You can change how it changes the quota, users' quota, so they have 20 days, holiday day equals -1 day. Font color and background color, which appear as this here. The other options are if approval is required. So, for example, you might not want a sickness day to need approval because it's just a sickness day, and then you don't need to click that. Whether half days are allowed, this is reasonably self-explanatory. If you let half days be allowed, then they'll either have the option to do AM or PM. If half days aren't allowed, obviously they'll just get the full day option. And then whether it can be set on a working day or a non-working day. So, for example, a loo day, you might only want to set on a non-working day, but an extra day that might be set on a working day. And then, as I said, when we were booking the holiday, you can decide whether the comments is mandatory. So you might want certain day types, users have to provide an explanation of what that is. Okay, and then we just save those. To create a new one, you just click up here and you get exactly the same steps. You can select what day type it is, so just add one in here. We might call it Val. We haven't got any other ones. Oh, we have got one. Let's just call it an extra day. That would increase the day quota. We'll leave the colours as they are. Approval, half day, and then we'll say that this can be set on a working day because it will increase user quota, a non-working day, sorry. And the comments can be mandatory as they can explain why they have that day. So then you'll say it just appears here, and then it will appear in the drop-down when users are booking holiday. So that's everything about adding a day type. The next step we've got here is the configuration. Let's have a quick look. I've got a few questions here. Which version of Holiday Planner are you using? This is on our newest version, which is actually 8.3. It was just released, I think, last week or the week before. And the actual Holiday Planner version, I'll have to check for you. Let's have a look. Oh no, sorry, my mistake there. Holidays is part of core, so it's on 8.3. Let's see if there's any other questions. I think we're all right for the moment. So next we'll move on to general configuration. So general configuration is just a configuration of the system as it says. There's quite a few options here. So the iCal notification is whether the email that gets sent out with the confirmation of the holiday includes an iCal file. So this might be useful if you're using an Outlook calendar as well, because then it will add it to your Outlook calendar if there's an iCal file on there. But as it says here, they won't receive an in-system message. So it's obviously up to your own preferences, whether you want the iCal file to go out or you want the in-system message to go out. The next one is my team definition. So the definition of team can be multiple things. It can be users with the same manager or users within the same group. So if you're in one group and your manager manages 2 different holiday planner groups, you'll be able to see both groups if you have this option selected. If it's users within the same group, you'll only see the users in the same group as you. Again, these are all completely configurable, so it's exactly what you want it to be. The next one is whether team members can view each other's holiday requests. So this is when you go to, let's jump back to the front end. This is when you go to My Team. If you want everyone to be able to see each other's requests, for example, in the request history tab, which when it loads, oops, it's on here. Oh, I think we haven't got it selected. Yeah, so if you have that selected, the users can click on a team member's holiday and they'll be able to see the request list. The next one is whether you want to display the calendar days along with effective days, and exactly that's what it is. You can choose yes or no. And this is for the report section that we went through. It explains number of entries, just if you want a long list of report entries, or if you would just want the list to be multiple pages rather than one long list. Hopefully those are all reasonably straightforward, but again, any questions, just let me know. The next option in the configuration side is zones and groups. This is something that you probably, most of you will be aware of. It's how you set your groups up. So they can be set up from system groups that exist that you're using for permissions, or you can set separate holiday groups depending on who you want to manage the group and who you need to be in which particular group. So you might not have system groups set up just for the holiday side, in which case you can just set them here. So the first thing you do is set zones. If you only work in one country, you might only have the one zone. In this case, we've just got the UK, but if your company works across multiple countries and they have different common holidays or different like public holidays, you might want multiple zones set, so you can set those different public holidays per zone. So that's how you have the zone layout. And if you added another zone, it just appears here. You can call it, say we could call this USA. And then that'll be a new zone there. You can say what the carryover holiday limit is per zone. So that's if you want to carry 5 days over to the next year, say. So say your quota is 20, and users are allowed to use 5 days for the next year. You can just pop that in there. Carried holidays expire. That's how long it takes them to expire. So you might want them to only last for a month, in which case you might put 30 days, or it might be 3 months, so you might put 90 days. Oh, so that means these 5 days have to be used within the first 90 days of the next holiday period. And then the final thing that you have on the zone is the start month. So some holiday runs April to March, some runs January to December, and that's completely configurable per zone. And then we just save the changes. And then this zone will appear alongside. To add a group for that zone, we can either drag one across and then it will appear, or we can add a new group. So by adding a new group, we can just put in the name of the group. So it might be front of oops. There we go. So you can name the group. You can then set the weekend pattern. I have to save that first. You can then set the weekend pattern. So you might want them to have the regular weekends. However, they might be shift workers that work 3 days on and then 3 days off, or 3 days on, 2 days off, and they might have their weekends on different days, or 3 and then 4, and that tells you how it is. You can change the length, so you could just have 4 days on and 4 days off. Like this, and then as you'll see, their pattern just goes 4 and then 4 and 4 and 4. So save that. Next things you get in the zone are manager. So you can obviously set whoever the manager needs to be. A substitute, so whenever the manager's on holiday or booked out, the substitute manager would then get the notification that somebody's requested a holiday, and they'll be able to also accept or deny this. The next thing that you get per group is permissions to run report. So this is these reports. So you might want to give a number of users permissions in every group to run their report, or you might want to just give some users per zone permissions to run the report. This way you do that, and you can add them in here. And then the final thing, if you're setting up the zone just for a holiday planner zone, is to add the users in. So you can add in as many users as you like per group. You just need to click on them like this. And then once you've added all your users in for this particular group, just save the changes, and that's adding in a new group. Obviously, at any point, you can amend any of the group settings there. Okay, so that's setting up zones and groups, and most of the functionality behind that section there. The next one we've got is common holidays. So as you can see, as many zones as you add, that appears per zone. So you can set the different common holidays per zone. So for example, I know in August, the end of August, there is a global holiday in the UK. So you might want to set that just for that day. The other thing is you can set for every year. So in December, Christmas Day might be off for both zones. And then you just click on the global holiday and it will set that for everyone. So anyone that had holiday booked over that period, that wouldn't come out of their quota and it would just be a global holiday day. Obviously, at any point, you can click on these days and just reset them back to the default. Every year in current year, obviously the current year will just set this particular day. Every year will set that date every year. Great. So next is the user quota. You can set this for each user for each year. You can also set that for all users. So if everyone has the same amount of holiday, you just need to go down here. You can set 25 days for everyone, and you'll see everyone changes to 25. You can set them for the next year. However, obviously, if you have users that, if you give them users more holiday every year that they're with the company, you can set this individually. So you could say Alan's holiday will go up by 1 day next year, and just click on update, and that will make his quota go up by 1 day next year. And obviously, you can just set that per user or for everyone. That's pretty much how quota works. So I'll just move on now to Bradford factor. The Bradford factor is something that not everyone will use. It's to work out a formula for employee absences. So by default, this won't be enabled, but just by clicking Enable Bradford Factor, that enables it. It tells you here how it's worked out, and you are then allowed to choose what days will be calculated within and equal the Bradford Factor. So you can choose if it's just sickness days. Obviously, any days that you created will appear in this list, and it's up to you which ones count towards it. The other option that you get are how a spell's calculated. So this will hopefully help explain it, but you can either just include full days or you can treat half days as full days. And again, that's up to you and whether you want that configured in that way. So there's a couple more things in Holiday Planner, which is set compulsory days. So to do this, you can click on any one of your groups or a zone, which will just click on all the groups. Then you can select the days. So say your company closes between Christmas and New Year. You can say that users have to use this as part of their holiday allowance. So those 2 days count as holiday days. And obviously, as holiday days do come off the quota, it will remove those 2 days off a user quota. And then save. You can choose whether it's a full day, half day. Obviously, in this case, it would just be a full day, and it doesn't really require a comment. So that will, not sure why that's not saving there. I'll have to pop that in, but generally that would save, and then you'd be able to, those days would count towards the quota and show up in your calendar. The last one on the utilities list here is to recalculate the user stats. This when it loads up. Sometimes when users book a chunk of holiday and then want to amend it, so they go in and amend it, and then they cancel a different holiday, the system can be slightly confused. Just to recalculate the user stats, brings in everything from if you change their quota, to if they've changed any holidays, and it just kind of gives it a reset. Hopefully when it loads, yeah. So it'll just reset exactly what they've booked, what they haven't booked, their quota, and so it all kind of matches up, just in any case that it doesn't. You can select the year, and then obviously whether you want to carry the remaining holidays, you select the user, or you can select a group, and then recalculate. And this will just reset their holiday if there's any kind of mishaps. But that's most of Holiday Planner. I've gone through that pretty quickly. Is there any particular questions on how anyone in particular is using Holiday Planner, or anything that maybe I went over too quickly there? Nope. I'll give it a few minutes. Obviously, anyone that's got any questions, the session is recorded, and I will put on Discover. But if you've got any questions on how to do anything in particular, or there's any user-specific scenarios, just let me know, and I'll be able to answer those too. So I've got a question here saying, is it possible to request an edit once it's been approved? So the user can't edit the holiday once it's been approved. What they would have to do is request a cancellation, and then you would be able to essentially request it again. I think this is just more because it's not possible for the manager to manage it if people are editing their holidays. So what they would need to do is to go into my holidays, request history. Oh, I haven't requested anything. It's not very helpful. Let me just pop a request in and I can show you what it would look like. So this would be approved because I'm the manager. What you'd then need to do is request a cancel. So you'd request a cancel, that would go to your manager to say you've requested to cancel this, and then they would be able to approve the cancellation. You'd then need to book another holiday amount of time. So unfortunately you can't edit them, but they can be amended. That's no problem at all, Bliss. Any other questions? I'll give it a few more minutes. Obviously, if anyone comes up with any questions, just pop them down. But if not, oh, I've got another one there. Can you approve workloads that more than one person needs to approve the holiday? Unfortunately, the way that Clarimentis works at the moment, it's just one person that needs to approve it. It will sit in both the manager and substitute managers request list. So myself or anyone else that was the substitute manager would be able to approve it. But at the moment, there's only one approval is needed. We haven't got multiple levels of approval, unfortunately. Yes, so there's an option to add. Another question I've got is paternity leave. So what you need to do is go to day types, add a day, and we'll call that one paternity leave. There we go. We'll just call it P. More than likely, this won't change the quota because it's just an allocated amount of time, and that will just need to be recorded. So I'll leave that as none for now. Just change the color just to show you how that works. I would say approval would be required on this. It can be set on a working day, and we don't need to make it mandatory. So we'd add that as a day, and then a user on the front end would be able to create their leave, able to say, I'm going on maternity leave for 2 weeks, say, go. So we'll just put it under Dave, and the comments isn't mandatory, as we said, and they would just submit that for their manager to then approve. You can add as many day types as you like, obviously configured in multiple ways depending on your needs. No problem. Let's see what's the next question. We've got one from Tala here. Is there an option for reporting days on booked or cancelled? For example, team needs an overview of changes to update a system when for leave. I cannot see. What's the question here? Tala, the question there, are you asking for a report on days that have been booked and then cancelled, or just
booked or cancelled? So anything that's been, we're looking for something like a change log.
Okay, things that have been kind of amended, or
yes, we can update other systems.
We wouldn't have a change log as such. It would just be days that are booked. So on the system we've got here, you can on a holiday, a user, I suppose, you'll see how many holidays they've got and what's carried over and what's been used.
Yes, that's an overview, but not of the individual days.
Do you mean like the days of the month, I suppose?
Yeah, so for a Tuesday, they booked the 25th and the 26th.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's only available as a manager, so you can see your own team's holiday. So we've got manager diagram here. So for anyone that you manage, you'd be able to see the days there. I suppose the other way that an HR department or something like that could get around it is what some people tend to do is if you create a group that sits, say at the bottom of the list here, and it contains all the users, then everyone would potentially be able to see everyone else's holiday, but you'd be able to create, I suppose, have that table of everyone's holiday booked all at the same time.
Okay.
Does that make
sense?
So
a group containing all users, and then set the HR team members to the manager.
Because they'll be able to see everyone then,
okay.
But then obviously everyone, depending on if you use like the who's out component, everyone would be able to see when everyone's out of the office.
That's fine. We actually want that. We actually want everyone to be able to see who's.
Oh, then that'd be quite useful for you. So if you just create a group of all users, and then, as I said, anyone in that who's out component, it will display everyone who's out, or everyone's different holiday days.
Okay.
Any further questions, anyone? Okay, I think that would be it then. Obviously, if anyone does have any more questions, pop them in, send me an email or pop them on Discover. We'll be able to answer them, no problem. I know sometimes people do have specific holiday sort of requirements and things, so if it's something that the system can't do, we can always pop in a change request, and then see if it's something that our custom developers can build custom for you. But we're doing these drop-in sessions every couple of months, just to go through the basics of certain applications and any questions that you have. I think the next one might be just a brief overview of documents, but that will appear on Discover, and we'll send out email invites and everything for that. But thanks everyone for your time today, and just get in contact if you've got any other questions.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
That's right. You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.